What is going on, all you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the Pika Pika Papa, and today we're going to be looking at the top 10 singles that exchanged hands the most on TCG Player last month. And spoiler alert, we do this every single month on this channel. We've been doing it for well over a year, and I get incredibly excited whenever TCG Player is willing to kind of pull the curtain a little back and show us exactly what's going on their website. There's some really cool cards on here. I'm going to tell you right now, there are cards that are driven by some playability. There are cards that are driven by collectability. There are cards that I think are fantastic investments, and at the end of the day, this isn't my list. This is stuff that you all have determined, because these are the cards, as I said, TCG players raising their hand and saying, hey, listen, these are the ones that exchanged hands the most on our website last month, and you all should be paying attention to that. So beyond just the cards and the price graphs, I always have to do a little bit extra here, as I do on the channel as often as I can, and so I have this system. So we're going to look at the card, we're going to look at the price graph for how that card is moved, but I also have this star system. So this number of stars that are next to the card are going to represent how many months in a row a card has been on this list. And as I told you, we've been looking at this list for over a year now. So it's really interesting to see how some of these cards continue month after month after month to drive such incredible demand on TCG Player. And for me, when I see cards that are trending that way, that gives me a good feeling about their long-term investability, their long-term collectability, the long-term opportunity for them, because if a card has been on here 4, 5, 6 months in a row, that tells you that there is an incredibly high collector demand and interest in it. And even years down the road, when that card is no longer readily available, I still feel like there's going to be a lot of interest in that card. And then, of course, I always have a graph for the booster box or the Pokemon Center exclusive Elite Trainer box that card comes out of. Obviously, specialty sets don't have booster boxes, so we're going to look at the PC Center exclusive ETBs that it comes out of. So all of that is pumped into this video, and I hope you have a ton of fun as we go through it, because I think this is incredible content, and I love looking at this list every month. So we always start this off not just talking about what's on the list, but I always think it's really cool to talk about what has come off the list month over month. So this month, surprisingly, only 2 cards are falling off, which means we have 8 repeats on this list. Traditionally, we have maybe 4 or 5 cards that rotate out, but that just goes to show you that the hot cards right now are remaining hot. And spoiler alert, the 2 cards that jumped on here, they're coming from Stellar Crown, the brand new set, which is what we traditionally see. Now, the 2 cards that have fallen off, the Mewtwo, I absolutely love that card. I talk about it nonstop on this channel. The Crown Zenith, I think that card is absolute fire. It went from number 8, and it is no longer on the list at all. So I pull this from a list of 30 cards. So it is not only not in the top 10, it is not even in the top 30 cards that exchanged hands on TCG Player the most last month. And then, of course, the Charizard from Celebrations. That card has been on this list and off this list a lot over the last 6 months. Now, the price hasn't moved a lot, but it has been on here kind of on a month, off a couple months, on again. So it's been really interesting to see the market kind of diving into that card. So it was number 9 last month. This month it falls down to number 12. Not good enough to be in the top 10, but still not far off. And since we only had 2 cards that fell off, I thought it would be interesting to look at some of the cards from Twilight Masquerade, because they're not on this list at all, but last month they were, or I thought it'd be really cool to see where they're kind of stacking up, since Twilight Masquerade is kind of like the big set right now, at least until we get Surging Spark. So you've got the Eevee. Guess what? The Eevee's not even in the top 30 cards that exchanged hands the most on TCG Player. The Greninja, the big card, the card right now of the Scarlet and Violet era, comes in at number 16, and then the Carmine. Man, that card is absolutely stunning. Love the artwork on it. One of my favorite trainers in recent memory. I love the artwork on the Carmine. I absolutely love the artwork on the Iono too. I talk about that a lot. But the Carmine is there at number 21. So really interesting that all 3 of those stunning cards from Twilight Masquerade do not make the top 10. So with those out of the way, let's get into the actual top 10. And before I do that, I've got to give my selfish plug and just say, hey, listen, if you enjoy this content, as I said, we do it all the time, hit that subscribe button. If you like what you see, give us a thumbs up. And if you have questions or comments, drop them down below. With that out of the way, coming in at number 10, we've got a really cool card in Roaring Moon, and this is one of the cards that have been on this list 4 months in a row, as you can see by the number of stars there. Now, the interesting story behind Roaring Moon is most of the last, I'd say, 4 or 5 months, this card has been flat at $50. We talked about Roaring Moon and how it was the chase card for Paradox Rift. It came out, it did the Pokemon Pop and Flop, but it found a really strong support line at that $50 mark early on. But then last month, a month ago, it started to pop up. It went all the way up to $56. So the thought was, hey, is this maybe breaking out? Is this starting to, I don't know, appreciate more since it's been staying so steady at $50? Well, over the last month, it's actually come back down. It is now broken below the $50 mark to $45.81. And we've been talking a lot on this channel about potential chase cards. And one of the things I talked about Paradox Rift is I think Roaring Moon, well, now officially Roaring Moon is no longer the most expensive card. You got that Groudon card, and I think that card is absolute fire. I think that card has much more long-term potential than the Roaring Moon card, and especially now that we've seen it break below that $50 support line. I don't know, I think this card's going to continue to come down. I think the Groudon card has this really bright future ahead of it, so we're seeing a little bit of a rotation there at the top of Paradox Rift, but it doesn't matter. Roaring Moon, obviously a very playable card, and a lot of people have been into this since it's been on here 4 months in a row. Coming in at number 9 right now, one of my favorite cards, if not the favorite card of mine from the Scarlet and Violet era, is this Magikarp from Paldea Evolved. You see the booster box price there on the left. Remember, the sky is falling, woe is me. Paldea Evolved booster boxes have been restocked. Well, it took about 2 weeks for the market to shrug that off. It dropped down, and you can see on 9/23 it hit that low. It is immediately popped back up, and booster box market prices are now over $140 again. So this card has been on the list 2 months in a row, and again, you see the same thing here. You see that the price was absolutely affected, but guess what? It hit that $105 support line, and now it's kind of bounced back up. I wouldn't be surprised if this hovers in the $110, $115, $120 price range for a while. Again, it's an ultra modern card. It's got Magikarp, which is obviously a big name, but not the biggest name out there. But I do think long-term this card has really, really good legs to it. I think everything I think the stars and moons are aligning for this card to have a very bright future. Super low gem rate, super popular set that it comes from. Obviously amazing artwork, and a lot of that can lead to really strong appreciation in the long run. So coming in at number 9, absolutely love this Magikarp. Next one right here, number 8, so Shrouded Fables. Obviously not a set that I believe is a great long-term investment play. However, from a playability in the here and now, it's got some really cool cards. And Earthen Vessel came out on absolute fire, right? This card has been on here 2 months in a row. As you can see, it spiked all the way up to like $68, $69 there for a while. Now it has come back down over the last couple weeks, right? It is sitting at $60.91, but still, when you think about it, that is a whole lot of money for an item card, right? But still, the playability is what matters. Do I think it's going to retain this value in the long run? Absolutely not. And if you look on the left, I don't have a price graph because the Pokemon Center exclusive ETBs, they're still in stock. If you want one of those, you can go online, you can buy them yourself at Pokemon Center. I know the whole world doesn't have access to that, but if you do, they're available, at least here in the US. And as I said, this card's been on the list 2 months in a row. Who knows what the long-term prospects are going to be? Not my favorite for collecting and investing, but I certainly love the fact that there's a lot of joy that people are getting from the playability. Now, coming in at number 7, another Shrouded Fable card. This is not driven by playability. However, it's Cassiopeia, which you and I know as Penny, and I love the artwork on this card. I think this artwork is really, really cool. You got her sitting there almost like a hacker, right? Cranking on the computer screen. I love that you got the broken keyboard for the left hand and the right hand. Like, I just really enjoy this card. And it looks like it's starting to find some support at the $50 mark. I wasn't sure how fast and how far it would fall, but we're starting to see that it did fall significantly from that kind of pre-market, pre-sale dollar, which was over the $150 mark, which is just insane, right? But now it's starting to settle in at $50. And I don't know, I still think that's a little bit high if I'm being honest. I think this card is going to continue to drop down, but I do like the artwork. And if I had to pick one card from Shrouded Fables, I don't usually pick a trainer card, but this would be the card I pick because I like Penny, and the artwork on this totally vibes with me. So, spoiler alert, the next card on the list is also from Shrouded Fable. You got the Pheasantipede here. Again, it has fallen considerably off of where it was pre-launch, but it is starting to hold its ground a little bit at the $56 mark. Now, the overall trend is continuing to come down, so this is not like it's finding a support line. It's just hard to see on that 3-month graph right there, but it's continuing to come down. How far is it going to fall? I don't know. The artwork is pretty darn cool. I got to give it credit, but I just don't know how big of a market there is for the long-term growth and collectability of Pheasantipede. But it made it 2 months in a row here at number 6, so you got to give it its proper due, and here it is on the list. Coming in at number 5, we're going to start talking about some of the bigger cards with some of the names that have been on here month after month and some cards that are performing really, really well. Lacey from Stellar Crown. I told you 2 cards from Stellar Crown make the list. Lacey is here. Just another example of a trainer card that came absolutely crashing down to earth. It is down 63% since launch, and now this is brand new, but it's at $40. Now, when I think about this card versus the Penny card that we just looked at, I kind of like the Lacey card. I'm not going to lie to you. Not kind of. I actually really like the artwork on Lacey more than the Penny card, but for whatever reason, the Shrouded Fables Cassiopeia still has a premium on it at $50. This card is much newer, has dropped much lower at $40, so it is what it is. And you can see on the left in the booster box prices, again, booster box prices in the low $100 range. Matter of fact, I bet you can go out there and buy sealed booster box cases for less than $600 right now. Stellar Crown, we'll see what happens in the long run, but I do think anytime you can get booster booster boxes in the sub $100 range, if you have a long-term time frame, if you don't mind holding on to them for 3 or 5 years, time and time again. I try not to say words like always and never. I usually mess up and do that. But almost always, booster boxes perform really well over the 3, 5 year, 10 period, especially if you can get them under $100. So something to think about while Stellar Crown booster boxes are where they are right now from a pricing perspective. Next card coming in at number 4, Paldean Fates Charizard. 5 months in a row for this monster, coming in at number 4 this month. Yes, the price is down. Yes, it is right at the $100 mark. I'm going to be keeping a very close eye on this Charizard card and to see how far or if it breaks below the $100 mark. The current trend looks like it is destined to drop below 100, but how far below 100, that matters to me. You know, I really was hoping it would stay right there. I thought if we could have this card in the Bubble Mew, and if you could have 2 cards in Paldean Fates over $100, I thought that would really set the setup well for the long term, but it doesn't look like it's meant to be, at least for now. The card could always bounce in the future, right? Cards don't move linearly one way up or down. There's always ups and downs along the long path of life for these cards, so we shall see, but it certainly looks like it is destined for a sub $100 price point here really soon. But what is interesting to me is if you look on the left, the Pokemon Center exclusive ETBs for Paldean Fates. Remember, I am a big believer in this card. I am a huge believer in the Bubble Mew, but those Pokemon Center exclusive Elite Trainer boxes on the secondary market were selling for like $67, $68. When you think about MSRP at $59.99, when I think about these new specialty sets, the rarest sealed product that you're going to have for them are those Pokemon Center exclusive Elite Trainer boxes. Now, we're going to have to see if they start overprinting them kind of like they did at the end of Sword and Shield era. That's yet to be seen, but at least right now for Paldean Fates, especially for 151, those are the rarest sealed products you can find. So I am not surprised to see this big spike over the last couple weeks in Paldean Fates Pokemon Center exclusive Elite Trainer boxes. You got Baby Shinies, you got 2 awesome chase cards. I think those are still undervalued. I think they have a very bright future ahead of them. So coming in at number 3 right now, speaking of 151, you got the Sunzard right here. This card is an absolute stunner. It's showing $133 right now, but in all honesty, this is almost at $150 right now. The prices continue to go up since I pulled this deck together. It has been on this list 4 months in a row, and spoiler alert, that Pokemon Center exclusive Elite Trainer box there on the left that shows $175, that's more in the $180 range right now. It is absolutely incredible, and I'm going to do a video just on 151 here in a couple weeks, but I'm going to tell you right now, I think this card is a steal at $150. The gem rate is incredibly low. 151 is a set of the ages. A Charizard with really low gem rate from an epic set with amazing artwork like this at $150. Sure, we can all kick ourselves for not buying it back when it was in the $100 range, but that's behind us. I think in the long run, this card is going to just absolutely kill it. So at $150, it's still a lot of money, but I do think it's a really approachable price point for a card of this magnitude with so much awesomeness behind it. Now, coming in at number 2, the Bubble Mew, as I alluded to earlier, 5 months in a row for this card at $93. It is finally starting to slow down a little bit from a price growth perspective. So it's going to be interesting to see if it can hold if it can hold north of the $90 price point, or if it's going to drop sub 90 here. It'll be really interesting to see how this card and that Charizard perform, right? Paldean Fates is finally starting to get a lot of age behind it, so it'll be interesting. But this artwork, people love it. This card is so cool. It's so unique. I think Paldean Fates is going to do fantastic in the long run, and this and the Charizard and the shiny babies and all of that are the big reason why. So love to see this card coming in at number 2. It has been number 1, but you know what it took for this card to be displaced from the number 1 ranking? Well, it was the launch of a brand new set and a Terapagos ES. So yes, this was the number 1 card this month, the Terapagos EX from Stellar Crown. And as you can see, started off at $150. Obviously, the set just came out, so it's got a whole lot of Pokemon pop and flop to go, but it did drop down almost immediately to the $100 price point. It is going to be very interesting to me. I am very invested in what this card does over the next 6 months. To me, I'm not a huge Terapagos fan. Like, I would not be paying $100 for this card right now. But it doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what I like. It doesn't matter what I would spend my money on, right? Like, I am most interested in what the macro level Pokemon collecting and investing hobby is into. And the best indicator of what the macro level hobby likes is how the price moves on these cards. So it's going to be interesting to see if the chase card of Stellar Crown can retain a price point over $100. You know, you've heard me talk about that price point a lot. I think that is a very important psychological magical barrier, right? Like I want my chase cards in my sets to be over $100. We talked about Paradox Rift, right? Like the chase card was Roaring Moon at $50. That doesn't get me a lot of it doesn't get me excited about investing in that set long run. Now we all know it's not the chase card that drives long-term collectability. We've seen time and time again where there's just one big chase card, and the booster boxes do well just because booster boxes do well, but you don't get that overall huge pop. Like it takes more than just the big chase card. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with this card in the long run. I think the artwork's beautiful, but again, does Terapagos have the name? Does it have the following? Does it have the energy to make it one of the best cards of this Scarlet and Violet era? We'll just have to wait and see. But that's it. Those are the top cards so far, and I am very, very excited. I can't wait to pull this together next month and see what it looks like. And if you want to be at the forefront of seeing this list every month, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button. We do fun stuff like this all the time. If you like what you see, give us a thumbs up. And if you have questions or comments, drop them down below. I appreciate you so much. I hope you have an epic one. I'll talk to you soon. See you later, everybody. Bye.